All right, more craziness from the second slate of game ones for the NBA playoffs this year. Unfortunately, not all the craziness was good craziness. There was a handful of injuries yesterday. Ja might have broken his hand. Tyler Herro did break his hand. Anthony Davis had a weird shoulder thing where he couldn't lift his arm up. He ended up coming back to the game and finishing pretty strong, but that was a thing. And Giannis had a really nasty spill on his back. The Bucks think that Giannis could play in game 2. They sounded really optimistic about it, so that's good. John Morant, on the other hand, it seems like he's in jeopardy. His status is in quote-unquote in jeopardy for game 2. Tyler Herro's out 4 to 6 weeks. He might not play another game this postseason. And we just hope that, AD can stay healthy every time that AD gets hit, every time he falls, every time, he takes a collision. You just, you have to hold your breath because, we all know about Anthony Davis. We know what the story with AD is. But yeah, I guess we can start digging into these games. Not a whole lot to do with this Minnesota Timberwolves Denver Nuggets game. I think everybody was just pretty much like, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who was really surprised about how this game turned out. The Minnesota Timberwolves essentially just got blown off the floor in the second half of this game, particularly in the third quarter. Jamal Murray, who struggled early, he ends up with 22 points. He had himself an eruption in the second half. He just started going crazy from three. Aaron Gordon played well. Michael Porter Jr. appears to finally be finding his footing in the offense. He, appears to be pretty comfortable. I believe he had 18. Jokic was super efficient. He did not hurt. He didn't hurt the Nuggets at all. And, the Nuggets defense appeared really locked in. One thing I will say about Jokic is he did kind of look winded. And maybe that was the reason why his stat line wasn't, incredibly crazy. What is it? 13 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists, if I remember correctly. Let me take a look. Yeah, 13 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, on 50% shooting. So, definitely not a bad game. But Jokic did appear to be winded a little early in this game. Middle of the second quarter, he already looked like he was sucking wind. And he kind of looked like he did in the Blazers series a couple years ago when Dame and CJ McCollum just had him in pick and roll hell for, the entire game and in regulation and overtime. And he just really, really he looked like he was about to pass out. He kind of looked like that Jokic. Again, relatively early into the game, probably halfway through the second quarter, he was already pretty red. It looked like he was, his pupils were dying. It looked like he had been running a marathon. I don't know what is good with that. Maybe just didn't get enough sleep, or that's something that I'm gonna kind of watch. I don't know if I'm weird or if I'm just being hyper observant, or if I'm thinking too much. But yeah, Jokic, he did look a little winded a little early in that game. So Jokic has had conditioning issues obviously in the past. You want to think that he's moved past them, but I don't know. I guess we're just gonna have to see, what that looks like as this series progresses. But outside of that, not really much to talk about here in terms of negativity on the Nuggets. They came in, played really good team basketball. They basically all scored in double digits. The entire starting lineup scored in double digits. Bruce Brown had 14. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, on the other hand, did not play well. Karl Anthony Towns didn't even hit 15. Rudy Gobert didn't even hit 10 points. 5 for 15 for Towns, 3 for 5 for Rudy Gobert. I don't think that the Karl Anthony Towns thing is working in Minnesota. And I mean, I've been saying this for a couple years, probably like 2 years ago. The year that the Warriors had the number 1 pick and they drafted James Wiseman was the year that I was saying that they needed to trade Karl Anthony Towns, because I love Karl Anthony Towns. He's one of my favorite players in the league, but I don't think he's the best guy on a championship team. I think he could be the second. Ideally, he's probably the third best player on a championship team, but I definitely don't think he's the number 1 guy. And I think if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves front office, you should probably take a page out of the Hawks book and, just kind of go into the offseason assuming that everybody on the roster besides Anthony Edwards is going to be on the block. And, it's time to just cash everything in and rebuild around Anthony Edwards, because, I mean, the Gobert Towns thing was never really going to work. The Cat thing has not been working. So, yeah, I think that if you're Minnesota, I think it's time to move on from Karl Anthony Towns. Mike Conley did everything that he could. What is Mike Conley, like 35 now? I mean, Mike Conley's I'm sure he's a great locker room guy. He's a great vet, but I mean, Taurean Prince isn't really getting it. Like this roster is just not getting it done. And like I said, I love Cat, but I think it's time for Minnesota to move on. There'll probably be another blowout or two in this series before the Nuggets eventually win it in 4. Maybe I'm wrong, though. I could be wrong, but I think if you're Minnesota, I think it's time to move on from Cat. You got Anthony Edwards. I think it's time to build around trade. I think it's time to move on from Cat. The Cat era is over. Cash everything in and rebuild around Anthony Edwards. And I think the Minnesota, this roster is just not getting it done. And again, there'll probably be some more blowouts in this series before it ultimately ends in 4 games. The Lakers and the Grizzlies had an interesting game, even with Ja Morant going out. Lakers take this one 128-112. Anthony Davis played really well, even despite his shoulder stinger. LeBron James played good, definitely. Kind of want to see LeBron be a little more aggressive going deeper into these playoffs, but also when you have Rui Hachimura putting up 29 points on 5 of 6 3-point shooting, Austin Reeves scoring 23 points, 14 points in the fourth quarter and 9 straight points to end the game. You probably really don't need to be that aggressive if you're LeBron James, but I don't want LeBron to take too much of a backseat to the rest of this roster. I still think he needs to be the commander in chief. They ran a bunch of actions for Rui Hachimura, and he was just money from 3. Obviously, Anthony Davis played really well. Anthony Davis had 7 blocks. He looked like Bill Russell out there. D'Angelo Russell played really well. He had 19 points. The Lakers just came out. They did everything they had to do. They were firing on all cylinders. The ball was moving. Nobody was being selfish. Once the Grizzlies lost Ja Morant, they kind of lost their way, which is weird because we've seen the Grizzlies play without Ja Morant in the postseason even and beat teams in the postseason even. So, I don't want to completely say that Memphis is a lost cause without Ja Morant, but I think in this series in particular, because the other team has LeBron James, I think that the Grizzlies might be looking like a lost cause without Ja Morant. Jaren Jackson Jr. played really well yesterday. His game is super ugly, but it's effective. It works. It gets him paid. It produces at the NBA level, so you can't really talk that much shit about it. He had 31 points and 5 rebounds. Just need to see more from Dylan Brooks. if Dylan Brooks is really the guy, I mean, Dylan Brooks Dylan Brooks loves to talk. This dude got a mouth on him like he already won 6 rings. Like he's already the GOAT. Like he's already in a GOAT conversation. This dude just talks. He's got a mouth on him, and if you're gonna talk like Dylan Brooks does, you need to do more than 15, 4, and 2. And that's just at the end of the day. You need to shoot better than 5 of 13, 2 for 9 from 3. You can't do all that talking. You can't talk all that mess, and not even shoot 45% from the field. Just Desmond Bane. I mean, he had 22, but his impact was scarce, really, on the game. Perfect from the free throw line. Obviously, you love to see that. Free throw shooting is super important in the playoffs. But I mean, with no Steven Adams, with no Brandon Clark, and now maybe no John Morant. I mean, the series was already gonna be hard to win without Clark and Adams, and now they might not have Ja. And man, if Ja don't play for Game 2 and the Grizzlies have to go to LA down 2-0, I mean, I was saying Lakers in 6, but this could be Lakers in 4. The Clippers Suns game, super exciting. Probably the best game out of all 4 games yesterday. This is easily, actually, in my opinion, the best game. Clippers take this one 115-110. Kawhi Leonard 38 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 90% from the free throw line. Kawhi Leonard just was incredible. Kawhi Leonard just has this switch that he flips as soon, when he gets into the postseason. And I mean, originally I picked the Suns to win this series, but I think I might have underestimated the supporting cast around Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, because with Paul George out, I mean, the Clippers still look like one of the most dangerous teams in the West. Even if they didn't have Paul George, it would be hard to look at the Clippers team and say that they weren't scary. Russell Westbrook, his efficiency was absolute garbage. He was 3 of 19 from the field, only 2 turnovers. But if you care about plus minus, I know a lot of people don't really care about plus minus, but if you care about plus minus, he was a -6, 2 turnovers, 3 from 19 from the field, but he had 11 rebounds, and if I remember correctly, he had 5 big offensive rebounds. 2 of them were really, really big down the stretch of the game. I'm trying to remember the context of the offensive rebounds. I can't really remember right now, but he did have the 2 big offensive rebounds at the end of the game. Then he had the block on Devin Booker, and then snatched the ball out of the air and threw it off Devin Booker for a turnover. And I mean, that's who Russell Westbrook is. He's just a really, he is a really, he's got a really big motor. He's got a really strong motor. He plays with a lot of heart. He plays with a lot of intensity. Maybe doesn't play with the best direction all the time. I'm definitely not a gigantic Russell Westbrook guy, but I cannot deny that he certainly had an impact on this game, and the rest of the Clippers roster definitely fed off of it. Eric Gordon played well too. Games like that is why you bring dudes like Eric Gordon on. The Clippers played really well. They didn't play. This wasn't the prettiest game by basketball purist definition, but I mean, the Clippers, they had a really, really, really what's the word I'm looking for? They had a really they were playing with great pace. I'll say that. They were playing with great pace down the stretch. And a lot of that was Russell Westbrook. A lot they were feeding off of Russ's energy. And, I mean, if you want that, sometimes this is the Russ you're going to get. I mean, 3 for 19 is never great, but sometimes even with the 3 for 19, he's just going to make plays that win the game. And, I mean, if you want that, I guess I can't blame you. I will always side-eye Russ's play style, but sometimes it works. That's why even with my criticism of Russ, I never said he wasn't an NBA player. So I mean, sometimes, like I said, Russ he's gonna have these games. He'll just do things that win the game, things that don't show up on the stat sheet, but he'll just perform actions that advance the goal of winning the game. Kevin Durant almost had a triple-double. Obviously not enough. Devin Booker played great defense. That was probably the best defense I ever seen Devin Booker play. Yeah, and if Devin Booker is going to start playing two-way like this, I mean, Devin Booker he's about to insert himself into the top 10 players, because playing the defense that he played yesterday while giving you 26 points on basically an extremely efficient clip, like, I mean, great defense from Devin Booker yesterday. Chris Paul played decent. You probably want more scoring from Chris Paul, but I mean, when you got Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, who had 18, DeAndre Ayton played really well too. Maybe Chris Paul doesn't have to score, but 2 for 8 is, I mean, that's troubling for sure. I wonder if going forward in this series, the Suns are maybe just going to look to try to get Kevin Durant, try to run the game through KD. Even though I don't really think Kevin Durant's capable of, being the number one facilitator on like a high level playoff offense. I think he's definitely at his best when he gets to play like off the ball and he works off of a dude like Chris Paul, because then he doesn't have a lot of attention on him, and then he can do things like give you 27 points and 11 assists, because he's not really attracting the attention of being a main ball handler. So he can, off the ball, he can put up these stats, like the dude that comes down and sets the offense up is definitely Chris Paul. Devin Booker sometimes. So when the attention is on a dude like Chris Paul, it allows Kevin Durant to really unlock a lot of things. And I mean, 11 assists playing as probably the third ball handler on the team behind Devin Booker is, I mean, they'll probably try to get Kevin Durant more touches earlier, because he was struggling early. I think he ended the first quarter with no points at all. He didn't even hit a shot. I think they're going to try to get Kevin Durant involved a little earlier. I think Kevin Durant and Devin Booker can be a special 1-2 punch in the postseason. Durant just has to, he has to get settled a little earlier. And then maybe Chris Paul can go 2 for 8 and won't be a big deal. But obviously, in this game it was. DeAndre Ayton played really well. Like I said, he had 18 points, 8 rebounds. Torrey Craig gave a very solid 27 minutes from Torrey Craig. He was hustling. This was a really ugly game. It, definitely was not pretty, like I said earlier, by basketball purist definitions. But yeah, Clippers pull this one out, even without Paul George. I mean, look, I picked the Suns to win this series. And I mean, I have to hold myself accountable for kind of downplaying, not so much Kawhi Leonard, but downplaying the supporting cast around Kawhi Leonard. I mean, Norman Powell he's probably the best six man in the league. Even if he doesn't win six man of the year every single year, like Norman Powell is such a great piece to have on your team defensively, but especially offensively. Like, he's a dude that can really go on any night and just like get you. There's not a lot of players in the league that can just get you like 20 points, even though he only had like 14 in this game, I think. But he's fully capable of just coming off the bench and getting you 26 points. Like, this roster, even without Paul George, is so good. And I don't want to get into the whole thing like, oh, if they had Paul George, this series wouldn't even be close. Like, I think basketball is more complicated than that. But, you know, it's looking like, I mean, obviously the Clippers want to get Paul George back as soon as possible, but it's looking like Paul George can really just like take his time, you know, because the Clippers are a really, really solid team. They can defend, they rebound really well. Even with Russ on the team, like, they're unselfish. They all play with intensity, and they all feed off of Russ's intensity, so they play with even more intent. Like, the Clippers are, I really think the Clippers could win this series, you know. And I mean, I picked Phoenix. I'm gonna stay with Phoenix, but if the Clippers win this in 6 games, it really wouldn't surprise me. Even without Paul George, like, this is just a really good team. It's a good roster, but they are a really good on-court product. Like, they complement each other's games very well. So if you're a Suns fan, I mean, should you be worried? Yeah, honestly, because I mean, you gotta kill a game from Durant, you got a killer game from Booker, and you got a good game from Ayton. You know, Russ was 3-19, and you still didn't win this game. You know, I mean, Kawhi Leonard having 38 could probably also have something to do with that. But Eric Gordon's 19 as well. But, you know, you really want to see, or you really expect, you know, if I told you that Kevin Durant almost had a triple-double, Devin Booker had a great defensive game and gave you 26 points, and you're a Suns fan, you'd be like, oh, we probably won that game, right? Like, so, I mean, if you're a Suns fan, I think you have to be a little nervous. Because the Clippers are just a really solid, like I said, they're a good team on paper, but they are a really, really good on-court product. To round off the video, it's because I don't think I talked about the Heat and the Bucks yet. I hope I didn't talk about the Heat and the Bucks yet, or this video is going to sound really dumb. Miami ends up winning the game 130-117. Giannis goes out really early, like I said at the beginning of the video, with a back injury. He took a really nasty spill on his back. Tyler Hero would end up going out. He broke his hand. As soon as Giannis went off the floor, I mean, the Bucks have played like almost 20 games. I think they played 19 games without Giannis this year. And they're 8-11 in those games, if I remember correctly. So they've played a lot of basketball without Giannis. They've won a good chunk of basketball without Giannis. So when Giannis went off the floor, I really did not expect it to shake the Bucks as a team the way it looked like it shook them. Like, Chris Middleton still played well. He had 33. Yeah, he had 33. So he was still on. He was doing some ridiculous things like the pull up in I think it was in either Kevin Love's face or Bam's face on the left side. He was doing some ridiculous things, but Drew Holiday really looked lost with no Giannis out there. Like, especially as a scorer, he didn't seem like he was really picking his shots really well. He didn't really seem confident in, like, okay, do I score, or like, you know, what do I do now that Giannis is gone? Like, I did not expect Milwaukee to look that shaken, without um without Giannis. Even Bobby Porter. I mean, Bobby Portis. He had he didn't. He really didn't flinch. Him and Middleton, they played pretty well, but it was just like everybody else just seemed like so lost without Giannis on the floor. So I wonder if that's just like a mental thing, or I really didn't expect the team to be shaken like that when they lost Giannis. I still think the Bucks can win this series without Giannis. I think they're gonna collect themselves, and they'll come back in game 2 if they don't have Giannis. And I think they can beat the Heat, but I mean, again, I don't want to say it was worrying because, I don't want to overreact, but like that was kind of surprising to see the Bucks like kind of fold like that without Giannis. Jimmy Butler, on the other hand, he did not have Tyler Hero, but he did not fold. Him and Bam Adebayo did not fold at all. Jimmy Butler had 35. Bam had 22, and every time Brook Lopez dared Bam to make a jumper, one of those little paint jumpers, he hit it. It was on net every time. And if Brook Lopez is going to keep giving Bam those shots, Bam should keep taking them because he's probably going to keep making them. Even without Tyler Hero, I think the Heat are dangerous offensively. I don't know if Jimmy Butler can do 35, 5, and 11 for, an entire series against the Bucks defense. But, I mean, if Bam's gonna, give him 22, that's enough supplementary scoring and enough supplementary play that you can't count the Heat out. Like I said, I think that the Bucks can still beat the Heat without Giannis, but in no way am I like 100% sure it's a lock. Like they'll beat the Heat without Giannis. Like even missing Tyler Hero, the Heat are still dangerous. They still, because they still got Jimmy, they still got Bam. If Gabe Vincent is gonna score anywhere around 15 points, Max Strus almost had 10 points. Kevin Love with 18 and 7. I wonder if they'll insert Kevin Love into the starting lineup now that there's no Tyler Hero. I think, because Kevin Love he played pretty great offensively. He's just now randomly the greatest taker of charges ever. But I wonder if they'll put Kevin Love at the 4, Bam at the 5, Jimmy at the 3, Strus at the 2, and then Vincent at the 1. Now that Tyler Hero is gone, and I think that if the Bucks really are gonna have to, if they're not gonna have Giannis for the rest of the series, which it's reported that Giannis is supposed to be ready to come back, so this might not even be relevant. But if the Bucks have to go the rest of the series without Giannis, they are really gonna have to dig deep, because Jimmy Butler has another mode. He's just like Kawhi. Like when he gets into the playoffs, he just has another mode that he goes into, that if he smells blood, regardless of what seed he is he's going right for your throat. So I like I said, the Bucks are optimistic that Giannis can come back, so I don't even think that it's going to be like a thing. But if the Bucks do have to play another game or the rest of the series without Giannis, I think the Heat, I would not be surprised if the Heat could win this series. It would not surprise me. I think that Drew Holiday needs to settle down, find himself more as a scorer. He needs to do a better job oscillating between, okay, I need to facilitate now. Okay, I need to score now. Chris Middleton is obviously going to have to keep repeating. He's going to have a bunch of other repeat performances like this if there's no Giannis. They're going to need Brook Lopez to step up, probably hit more threes, be a little bit more of a defensive thorn in Bam's side. I do anticipate The Bucks will win the series though because they're gonna get. The word is that they're optimistic about Giannis coming back, so they're gonna get Giannis back. And yeah, I really think that they can win I think they can win this series. But if the Bucks do not have Giannis, like if you're a Bucks fan, I would be a little bit worried because Jimmy Butler is not fucking around in the playoffs. Like that dude means fucking business. From once the calendar changes and it's April, he flips a switch. It's crazy. But yeah. So crazy slate of games. We got game 2 tonight, 76ers, Nets. We got the Kings and the Warriors, game 2. That's gonna be another crazy game tonight. There's one more game. Oh yeah, Celtics Hawks, I believe too, tonight. That'll probably be another blowout, but do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you not agree with what I said in this video? Drop a like if you agree with me. Leave a comment if you don't agree with me, but also leave a comment even if you do agree with me to tell me that you agree with me. And if you really like my content, don't forget to subscribe for more NBA videos. And I appreciate everybody who listened. Thank you and have a nice day.